times just a whole bunch of fun.
How did you and Sue do research to put the book together?
Well, we literally went back over what we think about things, and we have probably 20 years of paper because many witches keep all that stuff. We're inveterate pack rats in that way, I think. I am lucky in that mine is mostly on a computer nowadays.
Takes up much less room.
So that I can find things easier, but it's all there. And we just kind of dove in and looked at, okay, this is where we were. Does this still hold? How has it changed? Where are we now? And a lot of it has been through personal practice and what a lot of people in the pagan and witchcraft community call personal gnosis, where we've just had what we call confirmation from the universe that what we think and what we do is maybe the right thing for us. We're not saying it's right for anybody else, but we want people to have the opportunity to see it and use it if they want. We call it not reinventing the wheel sometimes. If you can go in our book and pull something that you can use rather than spending, a month trying to figure out what do I want to do here and can we do this or is it okay to do this? And one of the things we want people to know is that witchcraft allows us to do whatever in those terms. We don't have a holy book. We don't have somebody, up in front of us in a church somewhere telling us how to think and believe. And I think one of the biggest things is we have developed a very strong sense of personal ethics, of things that are just not okay. We do have morals. We're not, freewheeling people out there. I mean, I'm 62 and a grandmother of 7, and Sue is in her late 50s. So we've been doing this a long time. And we have found a way to integrate it into our daily lives so that it is just as valid a religion for us as any of the other ones. And we don't knock anybody else's religion. We are big believers in you find what works for you and go do it. If it makes you happy, we're big on one of our biggest things is what we call mirth and reverence in all things. You have to have the joy and you have to have a feeling of the sacred and often at the same time. Because we have had some glorious mistakes during rituals that have turned into thought-provoking and very funny things and discover sometimes that out of those horrible, what we thought was, oh my God, we messed up with what we want to do, turned into something new and exciting that led us in a different direction.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Who did you have in mind when you wrote this book? Who's your audience? Who are you trying to reach?
Okay, well, first and foremost, anybody who's practicing witchcraft, to let people know that we're out here and that we are doing things in this way and compare it to yours. Are we similar? Are we different? And that's wonderful. And hopefully some people who are maybe curious about what we do, and maybe people who have some misconceptions. And if they read what we do, they can recognize that witchcraft is just as valid as the Christian religion, the Muslim religion, the Jewish religion, Hinduism, Buddhism, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and that we all share that common goal of wanting to connect with the divine.
Good. All right. I'm sure that we have piqued the interest of our listeners and that they're saying to themselves, okay, where can I find this book? And it's on the big boy. It's on Amazon. And let me give you the specific title and let me do some spelling and let me give you a little direction about how to do Amazon. I always worry that there's someone out there, and when I say those words, they go, I've never been to Amazon. I don't know how it works. It's very simple. All you do is put www.amazon.com in the search feature at the top of your computer. Type it in. You almost don't even have to click on it. Your computer almost knows where Amazon is, but you click on it and it'll take you right to Amazon. Now, the first time that I did that, I looked at that home page and I thought, this is a little overwhelming because there's a lot of stuff. So if you just find the blank box, there's a big, long, rectangular box. Type this into the rectangular box. The Tradition of the Path, P-A-T-H, A Modern Practice of Witchcraft by Elizabeth, Elizabeth Chapman, Chapman, and Sue, S-U, Weber, Weber. If you type that in, the book comes right up. Now, there is a marvelous excerpt. If you look in the upper right-hand corner of that representation of the cover, you'll see two words. You'll see the words "look inside." If you will click on those words, "look inside," the book magically opens, if you'll pardon the expression, and you'll get to be able to read. I mean, it's a really good excerpt, and some of the major things that Elizabeth and I have talked about will be covered in that excerpt, and it will give you a really good idea of what the book is about. Now, Elizabeth, I know that there are some other places that our listeners can find the book if they don't want to go to Amazon, and everyone doesn't. Where are some other spots that they could pick it up?
Okay, well, our twoyoungcrones.com website, which is spelled two, the number two, and then the word young, and Crones, which is spelled CRONES.com. And if you go there, we have a library page, which lists that book that we've been talking about, another book that we published a year or so ago called Crafting a Magical Life, which is daily entries of things you can do or think about or write about or just read for the entire year, one each day. And we also publish what we call a monthly monograph, which is maybe 10 or 15 pages long. And they're available very inexpensively also at Amazon, which are kind of little books about different things like creating a book of the seen and unseen, which is what many witches call a book of shadows, which is kind of a record of what you're up to and why you're doing what you're doing for yourself. And it will let you go to Amazon right to the book that way. Or if you happen to be in the Rochester, New York area, which is where we are, our books are available at Mystic Treasures on East Main Street.
And, I'll bet that if they go to any major bookstore like a Barnes & Noble, that a Barnes & Noble could get the book.
Yes, they could. And I think from what I have heard from several people is if you go to barnesandnoble.com and type in the name, the book comes up. So somehow it's available there too, which is surprising. And I didn't realize it was that kind of out there. But yes, it's wonderful.
Excellent. Well, now your website also has some other interesting things on it. You guys are about to start a blog, I believe.
Yes, we are. We've been putting that together for a while. We have a whole bunch of posts ready to go. It's currently under construction and should be up, hopefully, if the Ghost in the Machine will let us within the next couple of weeks. We're on Facebook, where my partner actually does a weekly divination about the upcoming energy using what we call witch stones, which is our own divination system, which we are writing a book about. And we also are creating like oracle cards that people will be able to purchase by the end of the year. So we have a lot of projects in the works.
Oh, you do? And you're doing Twitter and Instagram as well.
Yes, we are. We are on Twitter. We're on Instagram, not as much as we could be, because as I said, we're slightly older, so we're not as proficient at social media as my grandchildren are. I'm seriously thinking about hiring my 17-year-old to handle our social media for us, because she just, points and clicks. I'm one of these. I have the computer, I have the phone, and I can do what I want to do. But if I get hung up, I just yell for a grandchild, and they push a button and say, "Here, you're fixed." So it's fun.
How would they find you on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram?
Okay, we are literally the same as the website, the capital, or the number 2, and then Young Crones. We're
easy enough.
Simple. We're lucky. Easy enough. You can find us there. And we are talking about putting together a podcast called Coffee and Conversations with Two Young Crones that we are going to be starting right after the first of the year, where you can hear me and my partner kind of bounce some of the ideas of the book around, or just talk about witchcraft topics, or let you know a little bit about the weather here in Rochester, which is always a surprise. So we have a lot to do.
You are doing so much. I mean, really, you're just doing so much. This has been so interesting. This is not a topic I had thought about. It's not a topic I knew anything about before I picked up your book. And this has just been such a pleasure to talk to you about this. One more question. When the listeners become readers, when they purchase a copy of the book, they will not read this book in one sitting, and this is not designed to be read in one sitting. I agree with you in that they'll probably read a bit here and a bit there, but they should go through the whole book. This is a book that you would keep and that you would refer back to. What would you like when the person goes through the book and they close the back cover for the first time after they've gone through everything in the book? What do you want them to take away? What's the main idea that you want them to leave with?
Okay, well, first of all, that witchcraft is available to anybody, if that's what they choose to do. That there are people out there who are searching for something just like you are. And hopefully you have found a little bit of things you can use for yourself. Or as you said, expand new ideas, learn a little bit, and come back to it later. And discover that, okay, when I read this before, it didn't make sense. And now that I've thought about it a little while, maybe if I read it again, it will. And it does.
Good.
More than anything else. And as you said, it's a reference for people. It's something to keep and use over and over.
That's exactly how I saw it. This has just been so much fun and so interesting. And you guys are doing some very interesting work, Elizabeth. Thank you so much for taking time to talk with me today on Books on Air. It's just been terrific.
Well, thank you for inviting me to come. It's kind of exciting to be interviewed. I never thought I would grow up to be a writer at 62, but apparently we have.
I love it. I love it. Now remember, you can find The Tradition of the Path by Elizabeth Chapman and Sue Weber on Amazon. You've been listening to the Books on Air podcast, brought to you on webtalkradio.net. You can also hear this podcast on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, as well as Apple Podcasts. I'm Suzanne Harris, and I really hope that you'll join us for the next Books on Air podcast, because remember, you never know who's going to be here, and you never know what we're going to talk about. Thank you so much for listening.